I've spoken to several credit repair company owners recently that are all in the same situation. Due to an increase in pricing being set forth by industry vendors including bonding fees, they are all letting their surety bonds lapse and expire because they don't want to pay the bond fees, and because they already have their original approval to operate, they think this won't be uncovered or brought up. Guys, let me explain something. You are legally obligated to maintain these surety bonds in every single state we're in as required in the states to check, I check, and so do merchant processors. The bond company, amounts, and account numbers need to be in your contracts. It's an absolute requirement for your contracts. The bond company, amounts, and account numbers for said bond need to be turned into your controlling office, and while this is usually the Secretary of State for most states, it's also called various other things in a few other states as well, or an entirely separate division secondary to the Secretary of State in cases like Texas, California, Georgia, Oregon, Maryland, Texas, and South Carolina do not play games with this. You must be doing things to the law, and yes, I said Georgia. For that state it means becoming a certified credit counseling nonprofit organization, and that is not an overnight process, and every I needs to be dotted and every T needs to be crossed. Now, why are vendors raising their prices, whether that be myself, other common vendors, merchant processors, or surety bond companies? Guys, over the last year we've all gotten an influx of new CROs. Not a single one of us is trying to take advantage of anyone if we're actually legitimate, but instead we've all been preyed upon, and the situation I highlighted above quite literally proves my point and is only one of the many things vendors are having to find ways to work with while also doing our darndest to be professional about it at the same time. This doesn't include the amount of people that have ordered services to get those services and then try to pull some seriously shady crap after the completion of those services. This doesn't include the amount of people that just come into our DMs for free game and insight to then go DIY the process so they can do it the illegal way. Many of us are becoming less and less available to DMs because of this factor right here. I'm not enabling illegal behavior, and that's what these DM conversations are often turning into. You want my insight? You can pay me $47 for a strategy or compliance consultation to get your questions answered, per hour. I think that's more than fair for the amount of info I drop in my calls. With an influx of brand new CROs that are not being taught, educated, or even brought into the industry correctly, it's made it extremely hard for us to vet new CROs, but, beyond that, it's made it near impossible to determine who's telling us the truth, and who's actually ready to operate a business, in compliance, in this industry versus who isn't. Now, to top it off, we've got people highlighting mentorship, coaching, and educational platforms that aren't even operating their businesses legally, or in one case, that's had his own credit repair company shut down for operating illegally. It's not okay, and it's because all of this false, illegal, and unethical behavior brings liability to myself, to merchant processors, to surety bond companies and beyond. We're weeding out the ones that are not serious, and we're weeding out the ones that are listening to those that aren't even operating their own businesses correctly, most in which have kicked those of us that are aiming to do things right out of their groups. Don't be misled, and don't be deceived. If we're not a part of someone's group, it's probably because that business is operating illegally and trying to silence those of us that are trying to do things right and educate others on how to do things legally, while they themselves try to keep doing things illegally and are usually teaching others or setting others up illegally too. Please understand, your vendors absolutely do value your business, but we can't value your business unless you are willing to follow the law and not use us to get you set up to take your entire model into illegal territory behind the scenes, 9 times out of 10 because someone dropped a class or offered mentorship that isn't even operating legally themselves. And GT, I'm concerned about it. And GT, merchant account providers are concerned about it. And GT, credit monitoring software are concerned about it. And many vendors that are trying to operate to the law but that can all get held liable are all talking about it. So please, when it comes to contracts, surety bonds, compliance for the entire rabbit hole that is all-inclusive, and even your websites, please work with those of us that actually know what we are doing, and don't let yourself be misled, because at the end of the day, the price is the price to keep ourselves and even our valued clients protected. Even if at times that is from themselves and belief that those who appear to be very successful in their businesses are all operating in compliance, because I promise you, most are not. But I won't go into the ins and outs of what I know there. There's only a few that do. A very select few, but I promise you, I'm telling you the truth. Have a great day, and thanks for hearing me out if you actually read this far, and if anyone gets offended by this or feels called out, don't see it that way. See it as a message to get yourself in compliance to keep your clients, and their clients in other cases, protected, because this was pointed at no one specifically but is the all-around full truth of what many including myself are seeing unfold.